Good evening and welcome to Daily Politics and Trust TV, your go-to destination for everything politics, policy and governance. I am Shafi'u Suleiman. Tonight, we dive into the ensuing disagreements between former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and the government of President Bola Tinubu over the implementation of subsidy removal, which has plunged the country into a devastating cost of living crisis. Apparently responding to piling questions of what he will do. What will he have done differently from President Tinubu on the subsidy removal conundrum? The presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, in the 2023 election penciled a number of measures he said he would have taken before removing the subsidy, which he also agreed will have to go. But Tinubu presidency fired back, reminding the former vice president of his role in the implementation of privatization policy of the Obasanjo administration as then vice president, just as it attributed his defeat at the 2023 contest to what they call his unfavorable policy manifesto, which is yet to be tested. And hours to the U.S. presidential election, Democrat and Republican candidates Kamal Harris and Donald Trump are in last-minute push to secure the votes of Americans in an anticipated tight race as they take campaigns to swing states, or battlegrounds as they were called, of Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, among others. Now, to help us navigate through these national and international political developments, we have in the studio Professor Kamal Bello. He is the Dean, Department of Social Sciences of the National Open University of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
We also have in the studio Abubakar Bello Abdullahi. He is an international affairs analyst and also a journalist. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
And before we commence the conversation, we'll take a look at one of the latest developments. Let's start from there. Professor, I'm sure you must have had the directive by President Bola Tinubu for the release of those minors who were arrested and, were taken, were facing trial. This development has generated a lot of concerns from Nigerians, and the president, was said to have given the directive through the Minister of Information and National Orientation at the presidential villa. Now, he said that these minors should be released immediately. He also talked about, the need to set up a committee to look at those involved in the arrests and the prosecution and the issues surrounding that. Let me get your reaction to this.
It is a welcome development. Better late than not. Because some of us have agitated that before those guys were taken to court, our human rights fighters and lawyers will have known that they were minors. They will have shouted until they were taken to court. And the president has tactically scored a goal in that manner. Because people have been comparing him with Buhari that doesn't listen or he doesn't even care about what is happening. But this one has, we shout, he reacts. So it will be a goal for him, a cheapest goal that he has scored. That people will say, no, he's a listening president.
But is it yet Uhuru? Some will say, allowing this to even happen in the first place is an indictment on the part of the government. And then the fact that, we're talking, the president is talking about investigating a matter that is already known by the security chiefs. For instance, the IGP owned up to it. He said, in fact, the painting, if you like, or slumping of those kids in the court was stage managed, just to attract attention. Does he need any further search for who are the culprits?
I don't think, Nigeria, the way we do our things, we play politics with everything. I think there can never be anybody charged to court by the police without the IGP knowing. For him to say that he just knowing now and was stage managed, there's something wrong with the apparatus in the police hierarchy. Because they must be briefed every day. And this is an international case somehow, if we say it's national, it's even an international case. Because everybody knew when this end of government, Edward government was taking place. And all over the world, they put their searchlight on us. And when the arrest was made, the police should have record. And maybe he could be accused that is lacking in his work for not being briefed daily, even on monthly.
Well, he is not claiming, that he is not aware. Okay, let me get Abubakar reaction. No, what he was saying was that, the kids, some of them fail, during the slump in court, and they were, medical attention was extended to them. So he was saying that was scripted. It was a deliberate plan to just shame the government or to attract attention. But let me get Abubakar's reaction.
Well, my immediate reaction is that this shouldn't have taken place from the word go. It's a reflection of the sad reality, of the current times we live in. I think that for Nigeria, to have taken those little children, about 76 of them, to be, judged for treason.
Yeah, looking at the offenses.
I think it's a very big scandal. I think we didn't reflect much, before we did that. These were children protesting against hunger, and those children you saw at the court were actually, they look hungrier than before they went in.
Yeah, they look malnourished, really.
Yeah, they look malnourished, and I don't think that their collapse there was stage managed. I think they are really hungry, they are exhausted, they are weak. In fact, somebody told me that these days detainees are held in, is it Black Maria now or Correctional Service Maria or what? Because you see there is no holding capacity any longer in our prisons. So if government truly wants to, detain more people, we have to actually build more prisons. So coming back to, the issue at hand, I think that it's a misjudgment in the first place to have held those children for about 3 months.
Yes.
Awaiting trial. I don't think that we have been fair to them, honestly, or to the country. It's a big scandal.
Okay, now looking at searching for who is involved or who is not involved, just like I asked Professor, the investigation, the president has also directed investigation into the circumstance that led to their arrest, how they were, what happened and why, the whole circumstances around the issue need to be unraveled. But some are saying that, is there any need to do that? Consider the fact that security agencies were the ones that carry out the arrest. This same suspects were taken to government, security agencies' custody, SAS in particular, and so on.
So all the time, the children were in detention in prisons for 3 months. Investigators didn't do their job. I think
perhaps the issue, the attention of the president is just drawn to it. Or
no. You cannot have people detained after such protest, and then nobody takes the responsibility, of keeping the president informed about the conditions of the people who are detained. These are little children, for God's sake. I think that they should just cancel these children and hand them over to their parents and just ensure that
the president has directed that the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs should look into their welfare, should also perhaps, in a way, reunite them with their families.
Exactly, and find schools for them. And like I said, counsel them. Just tell them, because, there is political angle to it that they were used, this and that. So, okay, don't allow yourselves to be used again. We're enrolling in a school. There is some food for you. Please be good citizens.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Now back to our subject matter, Professor. Policy issues. The subsidy removal, which was taken by, or rather, was done by the current administration, is still reverberating. The recent, even though it is not the first time, the former vice president has been accusing the current administration of taking the wrong routes especially accusing it of implementing what he called trial and error policies, saying that he would have done it differently. I don't know if you saw some of those templates, or rather some of those suggestions he was making, but let me get your perspective on that.
At least the good thing about it is that during the campaign, both the PDP candidate and Labour candidate, that were major political parties, including the APC, they said they will remove the subsidy. And Alhaji Atiku is not denying it. He said they will remove it. But the modality for its removal
would have been different. Yeah.
It's different, will be different. And it was replied that until he implements, it's still a tiger paper,
yes,
whereby there's no action yet to see maybe what he's saying will also yield positive, or it will be like this or worse than this. Yeah, the bottom line is that I'm very sorry that we, the elites in Nigeria, from every facet of life, we need to sit down and rethink about this country. Some people build refineries, they build depots. We cannot maintain it. And then we are importing for oil. And then we imported fuel until this stage where we believe that the subsidy is too heavy. We cannot continue with it again. So, and people have said, even different governments, right away from Obasanjo in 1999, that this, because I remember Okonjo-Iweala, he said most of this subsidy is scam. And up till now, we cannot address this scam.
Which is the root cause.
No?
Which is the root cause of the problem.
Which is the root cause? Is scamming. And those who are scamming us are people that are part and parcel of Nigeria, who have benefited greatly from Nigeria, who are stinkily rich, and they are just using this subsidy to scam. We need to sit down and talk to one another that enough is enough. The country is going into a kind of pandemonium whereby things cannot hold again. The center may not be able to hold.
Things fall apart.
Things will falling apart. Right. So subsidy has been said separately that is a scam.
Right.
Who are behind this scam? They should just, for the sake of God, release us from all this scam. If the government is not powerful enough to arrest them and deal with them, then the next thing is to beg them. Thank you.
Yes, I think it's part of the, the argument being put forward by the former vice president. I think he was also talking along that line, the need to address the issue of corruption that pervaded, the oil and gas sector. He was also, I think, talking about, I'm trying to get the specifics now, the need to fix the refineries, even those, his initial position is that the refineries should be sold. And that generated a lot of reaction too from Nigerians, saying that it's likely going to sell them perhaps to his friends and so on if he becomes president. Do you think the former vice president would have done anything better than what the current administration is doing?
I think he will have done much better, honestly, because Atiku has seen how the presidency works. He was vice president, and don't forget, he was not just vice president, he was vice president to Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. So I think that Atiku had necessarily learned much about how to use presidential powers, and he's a long-time businessman. So I believe that Atiku is so far the only person in this country who is giving this government robust opposition, if you like, because the National Assembly has become almost a rubber stamp. So I believe that the question of whether Nigerian refineries should be sold or not, I think it has become trite. I think Nigerians now are looking for, availability, of fuel at stable prices. This is what Nigerians, are looking for. And I don't think that is too much, to have that. So honestly speaking, I don't think Nigerians will care any longer if the government decides to sell those refineries. And in the light of the fact that the repair, or if you like, the so-called turnaround maintenance of these refineries has become a scam.
Yeah.
You know,
so far,
I think
the statistics are indicating that it has gone so far almost 25 is a trillion now.
Yeah,
so
but unfortunately, none of them has come on stream. Even the Port Harcourt refinery that was supposed to be on stream since December last year. You know, I think that even the NPC is now tired of giving deadlines or commissioning dates and all of that.
Okay, Prof, you know, what the former vice president is saying is, despite the fact that he believed that you know, the subsidy regime has to go, but he would have done it in phases, perhaps taking a route that I mean, the implementation would be perhaps in sequence or gradual, the gradual approach to it, not just taking it in one fell swoop like the current president has done. But the argument from the presidency is that this is something that has to be done, that hasn't been done in the last decades, and it is about time to do it once and for all, so that, and then face perhaps the consequences, so that the country can move forward. Do you agree with that submission?
I'm very sorry to say, maybe from an intellectual point of view, fuel was about 200 naira when Tinubu took over.
Around 200 plus, right?
Yes, yeah. 200 when he took over. Before you know it, he increased it to 500 per liter. Later it increased to 7, 9, 1,000, 1,000 plus. So, and it has not stayed. We are still looking. So what is the difference of what Atiku is saying that I will face? I will do it in phases. What Tinubu is doing now is in phases. From 200 naira.
That is in terms of the pricing.
Yes.
But he was saying that it would have been, I mean, the subsidy would have been taken, removed completely.
That's what you are saying. I said what you are saying now is not complete removal. At a time when he told us it's 500 naira per liter, people are still saying underneath they are putting subsidy. Have you forgotten?
Even though they disagree with that.
But later they came out that there was one money they reserved somewhere is what they are using to cushion the effect of that.
Right.
Are you getting it? So what he's doing now is also in phases. He did not do it once. I didn't mean he did it once. Maybe it will have been 2,005 per liter. From 500 to 7 to 9 to 1,000 to 1,000 plus. So the bottom line is that what is even painful now to we the masses, we are celebrating that Dangote refinery coming on board will be a so-called.
We'll change the narrative.
The narratives. And there's the argument now that what they are importing is even cheaper than what Dangote is producing.
A locally refined product, yes.
And Dangote was telling us that what they are selling to us from abroad is substandard. So all those are issues. And all this boils down to one thing, this issue of scamming. Unless all of us put our force together and tell the elites, political elites and economic elites in Nigeria, that enough is enough. We have suffered enough. Stop this scamming in the petroleum industry. Right. So that is only solution to it. No matter where we go, either we sold the refinery, either we have independent refinery, we decentralize, private individual comes in. At the end of the day, this scamming will still continue, as we are witnessing with Dangote refinery.
Okay, okay. I'm trying to get, verbatim what Atiku Abubakar is saying. It's a force. Before the removal of subsidy, tackling corruption, that is, fighting corruption should have commenced with the reposition of the NNPCL, which we talked about. It is a huge beneficiary, according to him, of the status quo. Now, it is commitment to reform and capacity to implement and enforce reform is suspect. He said the subsidy regime has provided an avenue for rent seeking, and NNPCL is the guardian. I mean, its guardians will be threatened by reforms. So, in a way, what he's saying is that even the key actors, the NNPCL, and others would not allow the reform to take place because they are, allegedly the beneficiaries. Is that correct?
To a large extent, I fully agree with what the former vice president said. Because look, there has been a long history of NNPC investing money, just like I said, in the turnaround maintenance of our refineries, and none of them has come up. And don't forget, the current management of NNPC, particularly the managing director, had been there, since Buhari. And he has not been able, despite the changing of color, changing of name, of nomenclature, or the so-called vision and mission of NNPC, there has been no movement. There has only been motion inside the NNPC. There has been no movement. So the current management, merely carries, so to speak, because I'm not shy of mentioning names. Yes, as far as I'm concerned, Melekere has outlived his usefulness. So if you truly want to...
Why did you say so? Because he spearheaded these reforms, that we're talking about.
Yes, but I'm telling you,
the deregulation of the sector was done under his watch.
Yeah, but what is the benefit so far as we sit down here? What is the benefit of the deregulation? We have not seen it. The deregulation has, increased the levels of poverty in this country. Because everybody will tell you, look, this ladder that you place against the wall, to get a roof. We used to just hire this ladder at 1,500, 2,000. Now we hire it at 5,000. It has nothing to do with fuel. But the person will tell you that he pays this to come to work, or he
transportation
pays...
costs.
Yeah, transportation. So,
he has
so he charges us, Otherwise, you will see that ladder doesn't use fuel. Look, the point I'm making is this, that Melekere has failed to implement meaningful reforms in NNPC. I'm surprised he has not even fired. I'm surprised he's still keeping his job. Well, because of all these negative results that we are getting in NNPC, nobody has paid any price.
Professor, but the company
people are keeping their jobs.
The company is, is turning out, profits, mentioning profits that have never been that have never been generated.
NNPC is not remitting money to federal government. NNPC is owing. Even 2-3 months ago, NNPC was shopping for $2 billion loans from Europe. And don't forget, NNPC was supposed to buy 20% of shares in the govt refinery. And they told us they had secured the money. Yeah. They told you also when they borrowed money to do it. And lo and behold, govt said, look,
no, they have divested.
They have only 7.5. They have only... So why is the money that they borrowed, to buy those shares? And don't forget, NNPC also borrowed money from Nexim. No, not Nexim, Afrexim. About $3 billion, for which they said they will support the Naira and then stabilize the foreign exchange and get a working capital and all of that. So what I'm saying is that there has been no movement in all, despite all of these billions of dollars that, NNPC has borrowed.
So is it to say that this may have made caricature of whatever the government is doing in terms of reforming the oil and gas sector? If, for instance, based on what Abubakar has said, the NNPC has not been effective, based on his postulations. And then again, another fundamental issue is that there hasn't been, impact in terms of availability and in terms of affordability of the end product, talking about petrol, which is tied to all the challenges that the country is facing in terms of economic hardship and cost of living crisis and so on.
What is there is that I've said it, and we have said it here, even he has said similar thing. Our problem in Nigeria, which is even in all sectors of our economy, is corruption, scam, and the same people that have been circulated. Because I remember when during Buhari they said they are doing reforms of the NNPC. The only reforms, as he has said, is just name, that the name has changed. And when changing the name, that's the end of it. The fundamental issue is that if refineries are not working, the depots are not working, why are we retaining workers there? There are workers who are collecting huge salary and allowances and pension from NNPC and depots. Similar thing is happening, when you say maybe even the refinery might be an old technology, and then we are pretending we are turning around. It's similar things happening to us in Ajakuta, steel mill.
Yeah. But it's the same government that is telling you that it is carrying out reforms, in order to make the sector efficient. That is the reason behind the removal, even though another aspect of it is that there is need to free money to address other key challenges. Like the government recently is saying that it was able to change the narrative around money is being used to settle debts, Nigeria's debts. At some point when it came on board, Nigeria is spending 97% of its revenue to service debts. And today it has reduced to 65%, which is, according to them, an impact, if you like, or one of the things they would pinpoint as, gains of this removal of subsidy.
The big question people are asking, I'm sorry, we started all subsidy removal right away from high BB time during the structural adjustment,
the SAP
program. And then we are still, it's the same reason they gave us that time. They want to free money for development, to fix our education, to fix our health. From 85 up to now, it's almost getting to 40 years. And the same theory they are using in 2024, that we are removing this subsidy so that we can free money that is being tied into subsidy and used for other things, like the education, like the health, like the infrastructure. For 1 year now, apart from the road from Lagos to Calabar, that was announced that is
coastal line,
coastal line that is going to be constructed, and nobody knows what percentage it has reached. If it has taken.
The issue is still at the level of the compensation. So, it has risen from, I think, 10 billion or so, 8 billion to 18 billion or so. So there have been a lot of controversy even around the compensation.
Even it has not taken off because you have not done compensation. So what we are saying in essence is that let them tell us another story. Not this story of saying we are removing this subsidy so that we can free money, so that the money can be used for other things.
Yeah. All right. The former vice president is talking about, alleging that the Bola Tinubu administration didn't come prepared in terms of removing the subsidy because there wasn't a robust plan to address the aftershocks. He said if he were the one, he had already a robust plan to address the concerns, especially around its impact on the vulnerable people. But the current administration is also, coming up with a number of initiatives to address this credit schemes, the student loans and so on and so forth. The CNG initiatives were done along that line. Yeah, looking at the point that Abubakar is making, do you think it is tenable, looking at all of this that the current administration is doing?
Sure, it's tenable. I'm following. What the former vice president said is that he will have removed the so-called subsidy on fuel quite all right, but that he will have placed some things ahead of doing that. For example, he said he will have made sure that the fiscal and monetary policies were aligned first. And then that he will have also, set up mechanism to achieve stability in the exchange rate. And he will have operated or considered cost-effective or cost-reflective electricity tariffs, before, doing this. Look, like, there are still queues. Why are there still queues at petrol stations? You have taken a price of liter to today I think I bought a liter of petrol for 1,150 at Rano petrol station.
Yeah, some petrol stations is even up to 1,300 depending on the location.
Exactly. So the prices are not stable. The product is not available.
But isn't that the product of also the regulated market? This is a market that is deregulated.
So what happens?
And that's what brought about the arguments between Dangote refinery and the NNPC and the marketers. They're going outside the shores of Nigeria to get it. They said it's more cheaper than the Dangote product.
Yeah.
So that is the essence of the regulating the market to allow for free market operation.
I understand, but how do you explain the queues now. How do you explain the queues? That Nigeria, the 6th largest
producer of oil.
Yeah, and the very first, the number 1 in Africa. You know, since last year, when the president removed, announced the removal of so-called subsidy on fuel to the charging of his advisors who had not even put it in his inaugural speech. Since then and up to now, we are grappling with queues at petrol stations, and then we're also grappling with the exchange rate. The Naira has not been stable.
Yeah, but it has already been allowed to
float.
Yeah. So isn't that the reason why? But what the government is saying is that is also a plus for the economy, because at least Nigeria has now a stable, a market reflective currency, which is not artificial in terms of which is not supported, so to speak.
I understand, but my worry is that this has plunged us into unspeakable poverty. And look, this is a tax, and these are my probably final words on this this matter.
Right.
This is a tax and spend government. And so far, it's the economic policies. They are not original. They got this from IMF. And there has been no country in this world.
Allegedly, even though the IMF also distanced itself.
It distanced itself because they mismanaged
these are domestic issues.
Yeah, because they mismanage it, because it is terrified by the effects of the economic policy is handed to them. Because look, the assumption was that, okay, if you remove subsidy from electricity, you remove it from fuel, you are going to get a lot of money. And then you invest that money in education, in healthcare, and this and that. Look, we are one of the worst in terms of healthcare in the world, not only in the world, in Africa. And then the money is not going to any education. There has been money, quite all right, but IMF and World Bank misassumed. I mean, this money that we realize is not going into healthcare, it's not going into education.
Okay,
it's going into people's pockets. And I tell you this, people are going to black market to exchange Naira for dollars. And that's why Naira has not been able to stabilize.
Yeah, even though the government said it must have addressed the speculative tendencies and all of that. Let me get your reaction to the reply, the presidency gave to former Vice President Atiku. But to talk about the fact that he was also at some point in charge of the economy during the Obasanjo era. He, spearheaded a failed, so to speak, privatization process and so on. And they believe that with all of that, he wouldn't have done anything better.
What is there is that I've said it initially that we, the elites, political, the economic, the intellectual elites, this time is not a blame game time. Let's put heads together and think of ways out of all these problems.
Isn't it part of the subsidy? The policy options now. He's talking about.
We're in problem.
We can do this better than what is being done, or something.
We're in problem. We're in problem. This problem started for a long time. I'm sorry. I'm not for any government because I'm an intellectual. I'm a lecturer. The government reply to Atiku is adequate. You have been there. What changes have you brought about? And at that time, the office of the Vice President.
We talk about growth, the growth.
Office of the Vice President.
The economic growth trajectory then was far better than what is obtainable now.
Economic growth on paper. In the political science class, we differentiate between growth and development. You may be growing, you may not develop. Because some indices of development, what happened to poverty?
They're not adding up.
Yes, they're not adding up. What happens to poverty? What happens to unemployment? What happens to inequality? According to Mirdal, if all those questions are positive, they are increasing. So you are not developing. Poverty should decrease. Unemployment should decrease. Inequality should decrease. Then we can talk of development. We are looking for development in Nigeria, not growth. And And they have not developed us the way we ought to be developed.
Right. Okay, I think it's about time we look at the other aspects of the conversation, the U.S. election now.
Okay.
You know, in a matter of hours from now, Americans will go to the poll. And this is expected to be a very tight race, looking at the projections, early projections and so on, at 49-49 thereabout for both candidates. What do you think will shape, you know, the voting pattern of the Americans going into the poll?
Okay, the political atmosphere of the United States of America is very, very interesting, you know, as we speak, because don't forget, up to the second week of July, Biden, for example, was the flag bearer of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And at that time, Trump was beating Biden badly in the polls. You know, but then sometimes in July, there was this change in the, at the top of the
decided
ticket.
to withdraw.
Yes, and the Democratic Party apparatchiks brought pressure on Biden to say, look, if you remain our candidate, we are going to lose.
The chance is very slim. Yeah.
Now, Biden graciously stepped down, and Kamala Harris stepped up. You know, since then, there have been a number of developments. You know, Harris is in the saddle now as the presidential flag bearer, and there have been 2 assassination attempts, you know, against Trump.
At Trump, yes.
But there are basically 2 or 3 things that are notable. First, Harris is on the cusp of history, you know, as the first African-American woman and American Asian woman, you know, on the ticket, I mean, on one of the 2 main tickets.
Right.
Because basically, there are other presidential candidates, of course, but it's basically Democratic Party and
the Republicans.
The Republican Party. So Harris is talking about, you know, defending, or if you like, recapturing the Roe v. Wade, which abolished, you know, these abortion rights for African Americans. I mean, for American women.
Yeah.
And all of us feel so strongly about it.
Yeah.
And so as we speak, Harris has about 16-point lead in terms of gender, you know, on Donald Trump.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that the American women are coalescing around Harris, not just because I think she's a woman, but basically because she has,
because of the manifesto.
she has shown herself as champion, you know, of the returning of the abortion rights of Americans, while Trump leads among the men.
Right, but Professor, you know, part of the things that are shaping the campaigns, of course, you know, the American involvement in the war in Gaza, you know, in Russia and so on, and many believe that Trump is having an edge on that because he is one who doesn't, I mean, agree with all the spendings, you know, and why, you know, America has to go into that and then spending taxpayers' money to finance, if you like, or to support some of those wars. Do you think that perhaps will give him an edge in, I mean, in the polls now?
No, I'm sorry, it may not give him a serious edge, because if you see if you know American politics, even Barack Obama, Biden, all of them, they have a focus that's different from what we are thinking in terms of Israel. Either openly, either underneath.
Yeah. There's that long-term,
there's
you know,
support of American president for Israel.
Yeah.
Let's face the reality. And Biden supported it, and Kamala may not be able to be different.
Just part of it, part of the decision. Eh?
Yes, it's one of the factors, because that's why American politics is interesting. Issues.
Yeah.
Nobody is hearing about money changing hands. Nobody is hearing about tribe, ethnicity. Nobody is hearing about shift of power or rotation.
No. One zone to the other.
You are going on.
It's about issues now.
On issues, ideology. And that's the difference between them and us. That we lack ideology. Ideological is bankrupt in our society. Right. If you are not talking of Israel, if you're talking of abortion, you'll be talking of what is the interest?
Talking about healthcare, talking about,
what is the interest of China, Iran, Russia? It's also playing a role in American politics.
That's right.
So it's not watery the way we are taking it. And then a lot of indictments, also a kind of propaganda against one another.
Misinformation and so on and so forth.
What you have done before, they now assume it and take you to court.
To public.
To shake you. Yeah. That you have done this before, come and defend it.
That's quite interesting, taking it from what the Prof has just said, regarding what is shaping the conversation. Harris was in Michigan recently, and she was, addressing the crowd, and she talked about ending the war on Gaza, for instance, as one of the key objectives that she would want to pursue. But just like Prof has said, there was also concerns around the fact that she's part of the current administration, and that took that decision, perhaps to support Israel and all of that. Some see it as just a campaign rhetoric. It's nothing more than that. Do you think, she presents a persona that would change the narrative around the involvement of U.S. in this, in these wars, for instance?
Sure. There is Gaza, but there is also Ukraine. Yeah. America tells itself that it is the bastion, of democracy. Right. And to that extent, America will not allow Russia to overrun Ukraine. Now, as far as Gaza is concerned, you have to understand that Michigan has the largest concentration of Arabs in the U.S. Arabs and Muslims, right, so to speak. Right. So a large percentage of the electorate in Michigan is made up of Muslims and Arabs. And so Harris has a dilemma. On one hand, like you said, she's part of the administration. But to what extent can she distance herself from the administration? Because as far as the Arabs, who usually vote for Democratic Party, so as far as the Arabs in Michigan, by the way, has 15 electoral votes, and it is one of the
swing states.
Yeah, the swing states. One of the battleground states. Yeah. So Harris has to make a balancing act. On one hand, President Joe Biden has gone, full steam, backing Netanyahu, against Gaza and now against Lebanon. He has even given them a brand new shield. No, shield. This anti-missile shield called THAAD. Right. The high altitude aerial defense. Yeah. THAAD, THAAD. Right. So what I'm saying is that Harris in Michigan, she tells Arabs that, look, I'm committed to ending the war in Gaza. I'm committed to ensuring that we have a negotiated end, to the war in Gaza.
Including the freedom.
Yeah, so while Israel has security, we are also committed to ensuring that the war is ended. The Arabs, the Gazans have the necessary aid. Yeah. They also have their dignity and their self-determination. Right. But you find out that in the neighboring Pennsylvania, where there is also a sizable number of Jews. Yeah. Harris takes different message somewhat. Yes, so she tells the Jews in Pennsylvania, because she needs their vote.
That's right. It's one of the swing states too.
Yes, it's also a very battleground. In fact, the biggest one. It has 19 electoral votes. So she tells the Jews there that, look, we don't joke with Israeli security. So we give Israel all of the assurances and the equipment and the war machines it needs to secure itself. So this is the problem.
So politicians everywhere are politicians.
Exactly.
They will speak.
Exactly. They
say what is suitable for their audience.
Exactly. And that's why they say all politics is local. So you see in Pennsylvania, she's playing the local politics that is suitable there.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, in Michigan, she's telling the Arabs, we'll bring this war to an end, and we'll make sure that you get your self-determination.
Professor, looking at the postulations and perhaps the standings, some are looking at the possibility of this election ending up with the Electoral College, if there is no clear winner and so on and so forth. And this is what happened perhaps during the previous election before now, the one that brought in Donald Trump. So what impact do you think this system, this American electioneering models, if you like, or system would do in terms of shaping the outcome of the exercise?
If you want to talk about democracy, even the Electoral College is not looking democratic, but it has been adapted by Americans, and they are enjoying it, and they have been using it, as you have said. If not for Electoral College,
Trump wouldn't
have won. So if Electoral College decides, and that's the good thing about them, Americans, whatever decision is taken by law, everybody accepts. Nobody will go and protest against it or fighting underneath against it. They'll be waiting for another set of election to come.
But does it breed unpopular precedent, for instance?
To us, that's why I said initially that the Electoral College look undemocratic, but it's a system they have adopted and accepted, and it's working for them. Because the problem we have with the Western world or the developed countries is that their belief of democracy is rule of law. That the law rules. Whatever the law says, everybody must abide by it. You don't turn it. You don't change it. You don't protest.
Also believe in institutional, powers. For instance, we've seen how the kind of democracy checkmate Trump while he was, a president. The attack on the Capitol and all of that, and how the institutions were able to checkmate that. But let me get to you, because we're rounding up.
Okay.
What do you anticipate, as Americans go to the poll now, with all this, trajectories? Do you think the Democrats will be able to hold sway? I mean,
very good question. Now, you have to understand something. In 2016, prior to the election of Donald Trump, he was not known. He didn't have any political record. But now, from 2016 to 2020, he has established a record. So Americans are going to gauge him against that record. Now, the problem with Trump is this. Trump has mocked people with disability. Trump has ridiculed
the issues around racism and all of that.
Exactly.
Migrants.
And Trump, so far, has been rejected by people who had worked for him. They have come out to say, this is a dangerous guy. General McKelly, a Marine general.
Right.
And Americans are very, very proud of Marines. And this is a former general of the Marines and his former chief of staff. He said, look, Trump is a dangerous man. We cannot afford to have him, for the second time.
Right.
On the other hand, Harris presents a fresh face, and she has not had any scandal, and like I said, election will be historic. So I give it to Harris.
All right. Thank you very much. I hope to have heard, the last line from Professor, but time is not on our side. Thank you very much. We appreciate your perspective. Professor Kamal Bello is the Dean, Faculty of Social Sciences of the National Open University of Nigeria. Thank you very much for coming. And we have Abdullahi, Abdullahi, also an international affairs analyst and a journalist. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And viewers, that's a wrap on today's edition of Daily Politics. We do hope you had a conversation engaging and informative. Do join us tomorrow. We'll be back with another interesting topics and personalities. Until then, I'm Shafi'u Suleiman. Many thanks for being there.